In the last video, we talked about the 4 hidden reasons your glutes don't fire. And here's the thing, you can't strengthen your way out of these problems if your spine is stuck, if your deep core is tight, or if your back is irritated. Your glutes won't activate no matter how many bridges or squats you do. So today, I'm walking you through the exact steps to unlock each of these issues so your glutes finally can fire, your hips will feel stronger, and your workouts will actually start working again. So a quick recap, the back can be an issue that does not allow the hip to extend because you don't have the mobility there, or you have pain that goes into the hip because of what's happening in the back, so the muscles won't fire. You can have thoracic spine issues, definitely into that thoraco-lumbar junction. We're going to talk more about this. That if that works, you have all of your obliques that go in and attach from that lower part of the ribs down into the pelvis, and your body's not going to allow you to move unless you get that area moving as well, because you have all the protection that attaches into that pelvis, not allowing you to actually move the hip into extension. It won't let you do it. And then the third reason would be in the front. You have a lot of tightness in your psoas, deep abdominal muscles, that when that gets so tight, it's not going to allow you to move. It will literally pull your vertebrae forward a little bit, and it's not going to allow you to get anything to activate because of the tightness in the front. And so if things aren't moving and flowing correctly, it's not going to work. And then the last one is the hip. If the hip physically can't move, or you have fibrotic tissue into that hip, you're not going to be able to fire those glutes at all. And so that's what we're going to address right now. So the first thing you kind of do is just kind of take an assessment of how your movement looks like. So you can do, let's see what you look like in your thoracic spine. You can kind of rotate and just see if there's any differences from one side to the other side. You can go and check and see, what does your back motion look like? How does it feel? Are you able to move? How does it move going forward? You can also go and see, how do you move side to side? So you can kind of check and just see if there's any issues there. You're just going to take a quick scope to see how things are moving. And then your hip, a big one is, can your one side move similar to your other side? When you rotate, does it move similar when you come in through and do a little bit of like hip extension? Does one side drop and then the other side, it may not go quite as far? Again, these are all issues, but we've got to figure out, is some of that happening because of what's happening up higher, or is it really coming from the hip? So the first one that we're going to actually do is the back, because we always roll out the back first. The back produces 44 to 48% of anything going into the hip, giving us hip issues, it comes from the spine. So we've got to rule that out first. So the first thing you can do from a back perspective, and these are all general things, there are way more specifics of back stuff. I have other videos that are out there that are going to be way more specific, but this is something that the majority of the people that do this are going to notice a good benefit from it. So when you go in, we're going to do press ups. And you're just going to lie on your stomach. You're going to have your hands underneath your shoulders. Now, you may look like this because you don't move. So what you're going to do is you're going to press up even if you look like this, and blow your air out. And you're going to notice that your hips are going to drop. Now, I have a lot of flexibility. So when I come up, you may not look like this, but I'm in the same kind of thing. You lock the arms and blow the air out so that you can get that body to go into further and further extension. Again, if our back is not moving, then your hip's not going to be able to move, because your hip won't want to move because the back can't move. So it's going to protect you a little bit, which is not going to allow you to activate those hamstrings. A big one that happens too is other muscles will take over. So like, you will have people with high hamstring issues that are really high up, and I'm pretty sure it's because your glutes aren't firing, because it's something that's going on with your back or any one of these areas that we're talking about. So your hamstrings can take over because your glutes don't fire. So people get a high hamstring issue, more than likely that's where it's coming from. It's not a hamstring issue, it's a hip issue, which is, where is it coming from? Why is a hip issue happening? And it could be one of these 4 different areas. So when you do these press ups like this, you're going to do 8 to 10 of them, and start out doing them every 2 to 3 hours and just start moving. And you can go and do a set of 10 of them and then go back in and test, how does your hip move? Did this open up that hip a little bit more? Did it not open up that hip a little bit more? Did it open up your thoracic rotation? Did it open up your back extension or your flexion or side glide? So just go back through and retest those after you do these exercises to see if it starts opening up. It'll give you some clues to go like, yep, this is better. Cool, I need to do more of these. So it's kind of how we do our evaluation in a very simplistic way. There's a lot more to it, but very simplistic. That'll at least give you some ideas. So the next thing that we go into is the thoraco-lumbar junction. It always gets tight. And like we said, you have all these muscles that attach, including into your obliques. And so you'll get pain out through here. You may get pain only in the hip. You may not have any pain, but you just can't get that hip to fire. A lot of things happen with this. And so we're going to use this if it's using a foam roller is too intense, like you barely can breathe, that means you have to go down and use a towel roll. Towel roll will work, but there's a couple things that we do with the thoraco-lumbar junction. This is one of them, just really arching and stretching. And you can see how I can kind of walk and go down, and when you feel the tightness, you're like, yep, that's it. I have got to hang out here, and you just breathe. And hang out here. If you can't breathe and you're having to hold your breath because it is just too intense, that means it's too hard for you. You're going to have to go down to a little towel roll to make it a little less firm and a little bit smaller. And so you'll have to start out there, and you can kind of progress your way up. Now, I can tell you with the thoraco-lumbar junction, it is something that we use Shockwave for. I mean, big time. We'll use the radial head, a different head than that's on this, and we will literally go along the spine and hit it along the spine, and it will open things up so fast. It feels really good, and it's the best thing that we've seen to work very quickly. And part of it is we have things that literally just get stuck. Tissue just can get stuck and doesn't have a good blood supply. It doesn't keep it flexible, and so then it can kind of scar down that joint a little bit. And so this will just basically open everything up again. Kind of what we say is it makes the tissue young again, and so that's kind of what it's doing. It's making it young and more flexible, so that now that joint can open up. So again, the Shockwave is something that we use for that joint that gives us some really, really good results. So that's the thoraco-lumbar junction. So the next thing that we're going to be talking about is the deep core muscles. And so these muscles, really common, can get stuck if you've had surgeries like a C-section, or you've had a hernia repair, or you have had like fibroids that were taken out, or any kind of trauma that happened even in your lower back or thoracic spine. That has been around for a really long time, you'll have so much protection and the tissue just literally gets stuck. Now, one way we can release this, that you can release it on your own, is, you can use a hammer, and all you're going to do is you're just basically pushing the hammer, and you're like moving it, like you're just trying to knead out that tissue. So you'll take it in deep, and then you'll find that tissue, and you're just working it out and through here. It will not feel comfortable. You will feel stuck. It won't, it will hurt as you do it, but you've got to get some of that tissue to release, because remember, the psoas will go and hook up into that front part of the spine all the way into where your diaphragm is. And so if you're stuck anywhere in through here, out down through here, you're just going to need to work that tissue, and you will probably feel bruised when you do this because the tissue is so tight. But that's one way that you can do it on your own. There's other devices out there that you'll see that will kind of help release the psoas, but you really want to look all in, especially in close into the spine. This is another area that we use Shockwave on. It works really, really well. Literally, like you'll just take it when we do it and you're just taking it and we're doing the same thing, we're going to be able to go kind of deep in through there to really break up any kind of adhesions, scarring that's happened, bring blood flow back in that area. So you literally are just taking it through here, and we're finding that's those spots to get you some almost immediate relief. And these areas are things that can really hinder you from being able to activate those glutes, as well as pain that happens in the back, pain that can happen into those hips, not being able to, again, activate those glutes. All of this in through here can get stuck, and that's one of the things that we do to help with that. So that is what we can do for the deep core. There's also another really good stretch that you can do for the psoas, where you will basically be in the lunge position. You can lean forward, and then you can bring the arm up and just get a good stretch through there. So if you lean the arm up, you're going to get a lot of stretch all in through the front part of that hip. It's another stretch that we will give people to just kind of help opening that psoas up a little bit, and that's a good one to do as well. But you're going to have someone work on you or do a deep abdominal like release, because some of that tissue is just so stuck that you're not going to be able to really stretch it to undo a lot of it. Once you kind of get things moving, you're going to be able to stretch it. But when you're just so stuck, it's really hard to stretch that area and get any kind of good lasting results. Okay, the last one is, again, if the hip is not moving, then you're not going to be able to activate those glutes. You can't fire through here, then you're going to try to take the back is going to try to take over, so you'll get more back. Like when you use it, you'll get more back working, you'll get more hamstring working, so we've got to get that hip moving. So again, all these baselines that we worked on earlier, you can do those baselines, go back and retest those baselines after each one of these exercises, just kind of see, are we noticing changes? Some of these people have multiple things. When we have patients come in, it's peeling layers back. So they have this and they have this and a little bit of this, and it's figuring out where did it start. It started up here. Okay, cool. We start working here. It starts unlocking everything else, and then we start working our way down. But sometimes it's just one area that is just really, really stuck, and sometimes it's a couple areas that we have to look at. So on the hip, you want to work on getting that hip to open up into extension. Usually it's some sort of extension with a little bit of rotation. So you can come up here and you can really lean forward, and we can kind of rotate our body. See how I can kind of rotate my body a little bit? And then you're just going to take it and breathe. Now, I am super flexible, which is not the case for a lot of people. So when you do this, you're going to want to make sure that you also can kind of hold on to something, so that you don't have to work on balance, so that you can really not use the muscles for that stability, but you can really relax into those muscles. So make sure you can do this next to a couch where you can kind of hold on, and again, just kind of rotate that hip out a little bit, rotate it in as you go side to side and through there to really help open up that hip. And the more we can get that hip to open up, the more oftentimes what we see is when people can't, they're stuck up here, the stretch that I just showed you will help open all of that up again to improve mobility in a lot of different directions, because we're not just stretching the muscle per se, we're stretching the joint. And when you can get the joint to open back up, there's usually one motion that will unlock everything else. And so when you get to that one motion, all of a sudden, all these other motions improve significantly, and that's how we know that we're moving in the right direction. Now, this other directions that we move into for the hip, but this is a really, really common one that will work with the majority of the people. Not everyone, but the majority of the people. There are other things that we look at to get that to open up. So if the joint is not moving, that is the other thing that we'll do. If you are having more fibrotic tissue into that hip because we've worked on trying to open you up and it gets better, but it just is so slow, this is when we go in and we use focused Shockwave, which is what this is, where we can take this off, and we can take this, will go like 12.5 centimeters into that hip, and we just put it on the hip and literally like moving it around, and you'll find spots like, whoa, that's a spot just kind of hanging out there, and moving it through that tissue in the hip joint. We do it side lying and we do it on our stomach, where we can go really, really deep to basically knock out any of that fibrotic tissue. And again, it makes it young again and more flexible. So then all of a sudden now everything starts moving. So those are all the things that we do to help open up things that aren't moving, to allow those glutes to start firing. I know it's a lot. There's a lot of things that we look at when trying to figure out what is going on and why is it happening. And there's a lot of different things that we can do to start improving the mobility before we get into any kind of stability for the hip stuff, for the back stuff, for the thoracic spine stuff, whatever joint that we're looking at. We've got to look at the mobility first. How can we get that moving first? And then we can go into the stability. But if your glutes aren't firing, more than likely, and you're trying, you can't get it, more than likely one of these areas is giving you problems that we have to address. So if you're tired of doing glute exercises and feeling zero activation, it's because you're strengthening on top of dysfunction. If you want us to look at your thoracic mobility, your deep core, your back, your hip movement, and show you exactly why your glutes aren't firing, we offer a free discovery visit where we can help you figure out the real source. Comment the word glutes fix below and click on the link to schedule. Stop guessing. Let's get your body moving the right way so your glutes can finally fire again.